the 12th day of Chodesh Shvat, and we are holding almost towards the end of the parak. We just saw the Mishnah yesterday at the bottom of Tzadi Ches Amud Aleph, and we are moving on to Tzadi Ches Amud Beis today. The final din of the Mishnah, Tzadi Ches Amud Aleph, was the case of Rabbi Shimon, where the Mishnah had told us, if you have a Pesach that was mixed up with Becharis, got mixed into a group of Becharis, Rabbi Shimon, if there is a group of, if this belongs to a group of Kahanim, then they can go ahead and eat it. We don't know much about what if they're not a group of Kahanim, or what the Rabbanan would say, so hold on to those questions for the moment. But now the Gemara, last word of the page, on Tzadi Chesa Amud Aleph, the Gemara asks the question, Vaha kamaisi kachim lebeis apsul. Question Rabbi Shimon, saying, I don't understand. If you were to treat all of these Becharis as quasi-Pesachs for Kahanim, then everybody could eat everything. You have these four animals, and you're going to shech them all as a conditional Korban Pesach, because the Seder Avodah is going to be exactly the same with the Dam and with the Smicha. All the dinim are going to be the same. Great. There is, however, one significant difference, which is that while a Pesach can only be eaten that night, either till Chatzos or till the morning, with regards to a Bechar could be eaten for 2 days and the night in between, which means that you are bringing Kachim Lebeis Apsul, meaning if there's anything left of any of these animals, you're going to have to burn all of them. So you are effectively creating fictional Noser. I mean, Noser that didn't have to be Noser. You have another whole day to be able to eat from these Becharis. Says the Gemara, Rabbi Shimon Latame. Rabbi Shimon says, consistent with his rationale, the Amar, he says, Mivi'in Kachim Lebeis Apsul. Yeah, that's okay. We are allowed to do that. Mivi'in Kachim Lebeis Apsul. Rashi here points out, Lemait Bisman Achila Sam. Mutav mi shel linatakin le'riyah. It is better for us to use them as korbanos, even if you cannot fulfill all of the time that they would be able to be eaten, rather than have these animals walk around and graze until they get a mum and then have to sell them. Much better. Meaning, and Rashi is telling us here that the alternative would have been to do exactly that, according to Shimon. If you have Kohanim that could do this, do it. Meaning it's better to use them, to eat them, even if it would be for less time than you would ordinarily be able to. Better to do that than have them go to Re'iyah and then to be rare until they develop a mum. Did not. We have a brisa that supports this. Asham. If you have an asham that got mixed up with shlamim, both asham and shlam are eaten. Asham is only eaten by male kohanim and only eaten in the Beis Hamikdash. But shenisar b'shlamim, it was mixed up with shlamim. Shlamim are eaten by all of the owners that are tahar and the guests, and could be eaten anywhere in Yerushalayim. So what's the din? Rabbi Shimon says yishchatu b'tzafon, you should shech them in the north, because the asham has to be shechted in the north side of the mizbeach, and the shlamim could be shechted on any corner of the mizbeach, any side of the mizbeach. So you treat it as an asham, and eat it in accordance with the most machmir thing that you would need to do, which is that you would have male kohanim during the day inside of the Beis Hamikdash. Amrullah, they said to him, no, it's impossible. The Chacham disagrees with Rabbi Shimon. What you're effectively doing is you are bringing kachim to Beis Apsul. So we would rather not do that. We'd rather have them to develop a mum and then sell them and then bring the korbanos as is appropriate. Says the Gemara, what would the Rabbanan do in the case of Rabbi Shimon in the Mishnah? Amar Rava says, Namtin loi ad sheyumamu. You would wait until this Korban Pesach Bechar group, until they all develop the mum, and then bring a big animal, a better animal than all the rest of those animals, and you say conditionally, if any one of these is a Pesach, meaning whichever one of these is a Pesach, then the Kedushas HaPesach will fall onto this one, and then you can eat all of them, B'taris bechar bal mum, as a bechar that has a mum, meaning a bechar that has a mum is still allowed to be eaten, but there are different dinim. They're not entirely chulin. Bechar bal mum is allowed to be eaten. It's not the same kedushas of bechar, But once it has a mum, you would be able to use it, and you'd be able to use the Pesach. Rashi here points out that what does it mean? That you should bring a big animal and say whichever one is the Pesach, the Kedusha should become this one. So Rashi here says it's not quite exactly like that. You would have to sell it, meaning redeem the money of it, and then purchase the Behema Shmena. And the Achronim have what to say about that Rashi, whether or not that is necessary or not. Okay. Adkan the Gemara and the Mishnah, and now we are on to the final Mishnah of the Perek, and it is the rest of the Amud is this Mishnah, and it is unfortunately not yet halacha l'maaseh for us. Maybe by this Pesach it will be halacha l'maaseh. This is the questions that the rabbi gets on Erev Pesach from Chevra. This would be the WhatsApp group that goes on at Erev Pesach. Rabbi, what do I do? Chabura she'avad pischa. You have a group that lost their Pesach. We don't know where the Pesach is. We had the Pesach, it ran away. We don't know where the animal is anymore. So they said to one of them, the group says to the guy that knows the streets of Jerusalem, you go buy another animal and shecht for us. Meaning, just go off and do that. We're going to go back to the apartment. We're going to take care of everything else. You take care of Pesach. And he went and he found v'shachat, and he shechted it. But in the meantime, they got nervous and they bumped into somebody else, and they're like, "Well, what if he doesn't find it? You're all going to be over in Israel Garis. Well, you're going to now have a chiyuv karis." And they're like, "You know what? We're just going to go and we're going to get our own, and we're going to shech that one." So now you have two Pesachs that are happening at the same time with the same group of people. Says the Mishnah, if his was shechted first, meaning the guy that went and found the original, he eats his, and they eat with him from his, meaning the one that they found, the one that they're already all decided on. But if they got to the Beis HaMikdash first, while he was still looking for the original korban, and they shechted this and offered this. They eat from this because they went and they bought a korban pesach. They brought the korban pesach. And he is going to now eat from his because he never joined their group. They decided to leave his group, and he didn't decide to leave his group, so he has his own korban pesach. They have theirs. What happens? You have no idea. They were both in the same group. There were thousands of people. They didn't see each other. They don't know. They know that they were both in the second cat that came to the Beis HaMikdash. They don't know who was shechted first. Or if both of them were shechted exactly at the same time. He can eat from his because he knows that this one was his. That didn't change. They cannot eat from his because maybe his was shechted. His was shechted second, theirs was shechted first. They don't know. They can't eat from his because maybe theirs was shechted first. They cannot eat from theirs either because maybe when he shechted it, the korban that they had already decided that they were on, that already happened. And now this one that they shechted second was not a korban at all. Theirs has to be burnt. And says the Mishnah, Pesach Sheni, and they are potter from Pesach Sheni, because either which way, they are now no longer obligated to bring a korban Pesach. There's a mitzvah to eat the korban Pesach, but not eating from the korban Pesach is not ma'akev, as we pointed out a number of times. So they have definitely been yotze the mitzvah on one of the two. They're not chayev karis. They've definitely been yotze the mitzvah of korban Pesach. However, there is no ability for them to eat from either korban. And now into the funny shaped lines in the middle of the page. There's a tosfos that got squeezed in there. So says the Mishnah, Amar lahem, if he says to them, Ima echarti, if I am late, tzu'u v'shachtu alai. They make a time. He says, if I'm not there at this point in time, you go and shecht on my behalf. Halachah matzah v'shachat. I mean, they made a deal. He said, if I'm not there at 2 p.m., whatever it is, 3 p.m., you guys get another animal and go shecht that one. Halachah matzah v'shachat. And then he went and he found his and he shechted. And they didn't see him. They also went and they shechted. Im shelahem nishchad rishon, if theirs was shechted first, hein oichlin mishalahem. They eat from theirs. V'hu oichel imahem, and he eats with them, because he had told them, if I'm not there in time, shecht on my behalf as well. V'im shaloi nishchad rishon, if his was shechted first, hu oichel mishaloi, he will eat from his, because he had intention to eat from his. Vein oichel mishalahem, they didn't see him, they withdrew from the original one, and they have now joined the second one. Now you have two chaburas. V'im any yadua ezmem nishchad rishon, if you have no idea which is which, meaning which one was shechted first, or you found out that both were exactly at the same time. They eat from theirs because that was their intention. And he cannot eat with them because he went and shechted his, and now he doesn't know which is first. Same din as the previous halach in the Mishnah, except the other way around. And the one that he shechted is going out to be burnt, and he is now also exempt from Pesachim. If he says to them, and they say to him, meaning, he said to them, you guys go figure out a Korban Pesach, and I'm going to go figure out a Korban Pesach. Says the Mishnah, everybody would eat from the first one, meaning, they say, whoever gets there first, just shecht it on behalf of everybody. So, everybody can eat from the first. But if you don't know which one was shechted first, they didn't see each other, they missed each other, he thinks that he's doing it on behalf of them. They think that they're doing it on behalf of him. Both of them are going to go out to the Beis HaShrefa because both sides of this group are saying whichever one was shechted first, that's the one that we're on. But now you don't know. And now since you don't know which one was which, now you have a problem. Both of them go out to Beis HaShrefa, and you wouldn't be able to eat them, and they're all potem from Pesach Shen. Loi amar lahem, if he didn't say anything to them, v'loi amar loi, and they didn't say anything to him, ein achrayin ze al zeh, they are not responsible for one another. Meaning, they're having a fight in the middle of the street. They go, I don't know. He said, I'm going to go figure it out. And they go, like, I'm going to go figure it out. And then they never reconvened. They didn't speak about it, and he went and got his own, and they went and got their own. No problem. Everybody eats their own Korban Pesach. That is situations part one. The first kind of scenarios that the Mishnah discusses. Second kind of scenarios the Mishnah discusses is Shnei Chaburos Shenis Arba Pischem. If you have two groups that are in the same hotel, everybody's staying in the Waldorf, and you have your Korban Pesach and I have my Korban Pesach, we have different groups, and we got the animals mixed up. We don't know whose is whose. We're not exactly lamb experts. They all look the same. I bought mine today. You bought yours today. I'm like, no, I'm pretty sure this is mine. You're like, no, I'm pretty sure it's mine. They look almost identical. You have no idea to tell which is which. It says the Mishnah as follows: each group basically donates a member of their group to the other group. That is step one. They say, okay, I'm going to join your group, meaning you have one person, there's 10 people in my group, 10 people in your group. One of my people is joining your group, one of your people is joining my group. So we've just switched a member. And this is what they say. If this one is our Pesach, you withdraw your hands from yours, and then you are joining our Chabura. And if this is your Pesach, we withdraw our hands from ours, meaning from this one, and we're joining your group. Why does this have to be like this, and how does this work? Because you have two karbanos that have already had people registering on them. You can switch registrations, but what you cannot have is a Korban Pesach that has no balim, that has no owners. But the problem is that you don't know who the owners are. So what you do is you make sure that one from each group becomes a balim on the other one, on the opposite one, so that regardless of which it belongs to, you have 10 people on one, and now you say, I have 9 on this one and 1 on that one, and vice versa, which means that no matter what, you are always going to have one person at least that it remains as registered and ownership over this korban, over this Pesach. And then you can switch the other 9, and then you can bring the person back if you want to. V'chein chamish chaburos shel chamisha chamisha. And the same thing would be true about 5 groups, each of 5 people. V'shel asara asara. And if there were 10 groups of 10 people, they're all staying in the same hotel, and they got all of the animals mixed up. So you divvy up the groups. You give everybody a color, or give everybody a number, A and B and C and D and E, and then you mix around all of the groups so that every korban has animals, and then you do this tonight. If this is mine, then you are not registered on this, and if it's yours, then I'm not registered on it for each one of these korbanos. And you draw one from each group to the group to make a new group. And this is what everybody says, that you make this tonight, this condition. Okay. What happens if you have 2 people that each had their own Karban Pesach? They're little shepsel. They're planning on eating it by themselves, and each one is planning on eating theirs by themselves, and they got mixed up. So now you can't donate a member of the group. How would you donate a member of the group? You're going to end up in a situation where one of them is going to have balim and the other one is not going to have balim. So that's going to be a problem. Says the Mishnah, no problem. One of them, each one of them has to find a guy in the street, find another random person to pull into their group in order to be able to do this procedure. Meaning, borrow somebody from another group. Be like, hey, I'm taking you from your group. Come and register on my Karban Pesach. Good. Now you're registered with my Karban Pesach. It's either one of these 2. Let's switch this around. And then once you've switched it around, you'd be able to send them back to where they need to go. This one gets one person from the market, and that one gets another person from the market. This one goes to that group. That one goes to that group. This is what they say. If mine is this Pesach, your hands withdraw from yours. And now you join me. And if this one is your Pesach, your hands are withdrawn from mine. And I am now registered on yours. And then the 2 extras that were stand-in registrants on the Pesach, then you'll be able to send them back to the groups that they were part of. You can deregister them and send them on their way. And by Hashem Yisbarach, we will continue with the Gemara and the end of the parak tomorrow on Shabbos Kodesh, and recording Maseches Shabbos, and Be'ez Hashem starting Arvei Pesachim on Sunday. Looking forward to seeing everybody tomorrow, Maseches Shabbos, Sunday morning. Have a beautiful Shabbos, and we'll see you there.